Hi, everybody. Good afternoon or good morning, and welcome to today's webinar on safe and active school routes and the new GMF Accelerate offer. My name is Amy Schwartz. I'm the transportation lead at the Green Municipal Fund, and I'll be your moderator today. Over the next hour, we'll be hearing from municipal and community leaders about their experiences implementing active school transportation routes. And I will also be providing an overview on GMF's new Accelerate funding offer, which launched this month to support municipalities in implementing active school travel infrastructure. We really hope that the insights from today's speakers can help support your own active transportation projects in your communities and also encourage you to apply to our new funding and peer learning opportunity. So next slide. Before we dive in, a few housekeeping items for the session. Today's event will be taking place in English without simultaneous interpretation. L'événement d'aujourd'hui se déroulera en anglais sans interprétation simultanée. Cela s'explique par le fait que notre webinaire en français a eu lieu plus tôt dans la journée. Pour ceux qui espéraient suivre en français et qui ont manqué notre session dédiée, gardez un œil sur l'enregistrement qui sera envoyé aux personnes inscrites aux deux sessions. Our French language webinar took place earlier today. So for anyone who hoped to follow in French and missed our French language session, keep an eye out for the recording that will be sent to registrants of both sessions. So on to the good stuff. We're pleased to have three excellent speakers today, and that will be followed by a Q&A session. And as we move through the presentation and discussion today, I ask that you submit your questions in English or in French in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen as they come up. And we will respond to your questions in a few ways, either via direct written response in the Q&A box, and we will also have a discussion and opportunity for Q&A at the conclusion of the webinar. So please feel free to share discussions and reflections in the chat box throughout the presentation at any time. And to kickstart today's discussion, I invite you to introduce yourself in the chat box, share where you're joining from, and what you're excited about with this offer if you'd like. That would be great. So next slide. A land acknowledgement. Our FCM office is located in Ottawa, Ontario, which is the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin nations, who we at FCM recognize as the traditional custodians of this land, and we deeply appreciate their historic connection to this place, along with the contributions of Métis, Inuit, and all First Nations, both in shaping and strengthening this community in particular, and our country as a whole. I'm in Ottawa today, but normally I live, play, and work in the beautiful lands of Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, which is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which the Mi'kmaq, Wolastoqey, and Passamaquoddy people first signed with the British Crown in 1726. So I will start us off by highlighting the funding support that the Green Municipal Fund can offer to communities across Canada. As you may or may not be aware, GMF is the largest program at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. It's now a program of $2.4 billion funded by the Government of Canada. And we offer a unique mix of funding and capacity building. And these are available to all municipalities, big and small, as well as their partners in all provinces and territories. So now to our featured presentation for this webinar, the Safe and Active School Routes Accelerate offer. So this offer will provide grants and capacity development to help municipalities develop and implement active transportation infrastructure and safety improvements along routes to schools. So the funding details. 12 to 15 applicants will receive grants of up to $125,000 and participate in a 2-year peer learning cohort. And that funding will cover up to 50% of eligible costs, or 80% for rural, northern, and eligible Indigenous communities. And the types of expenses that can be involved, a majority of the expenses claimed to GMF will be for the design, purchase, or construction of the actual infrastructure, There are other types of expenses that are anticipated and permitted related to planning or delivering educational initiatives or events to complement the projects, but the majority of the funding should be dedicated to the infrastructure. And details on capacity development component of the offer. So successful applicants will join a peer learning program, including skills development training and connecting with national leaders in designing and building active and safe routes to school. The program will include a mix of online and in-person workshops over a period of 2 years, and travel costs associated with that will be covered by GMF. Support will also be available to guide clients on monitoring and evaluation of the impact of their projects on safety, on modal shift, and as well on greenhouse gas reductions. So the eligible types of projects. So quick build installations for active transportation. Types of treatments for this can include things like bollards, planters, paint, concrete surfboards, and other adaptable treatments to create new pathways or deter speeds. New or improved safety features and facilities that promote active transportation. It's also eligible, such things like crosswalks, curb bump outs, separated bicycle lanes, bike parking, speed bumps, signage, intersections, multi-use pathways, and other things you may be dreaming of. So eligible applicants. So the following organizations are eligible for Green Municipal Fund funding. Canadian municipal governments, so towns, cities, regions, districts, and local boards, local government transit agencies, and Indigenous communities that are an eligible lead applicant if they are partnering with a Canadian municipal government on an eligible project, or if they have a shared service agreement with a Canadian municipal government related to municipal infrastructure, climate change, or adaptation. Application requirements. So applicants should identify one or more routes to a primary or secondary school as the target area. They should demonstrate that their project will enable a significant proportion of students to walk, bike, or roll to or from key destinations within 2 kilometers of the school. They also should provide a proof of partnership between the school or schools of interest and the local government applicant. So next slide on application requirements. Applicants also should demonstrate complete jurisdiction or permission over the roads, paths, or land expected to be directly impacted by the project. They should also demonstrate that the proposed project is a municipal commitment or part of the municipal plan or strategy. And they should also demonstrate that projects have the potential to lead to greenhouse gas reductions through a reduction in vehicle kilometers traveled. And we will be providing applicants with support in this area. I should note that next is elements of strong applications and projects. So projects should be connected to a pre-established school travel plan. They can demonstrate that they will connect to or extend existing active transportation infrastructure. Strong projects would be led by a multidisciplinary team representing key roles that would be involved or impacting the project. But multidisciplinary team doesn't have to be put together just for the sake of a multidisciplinary team, but if those different areas of the municipality actually impact the project. Strong projects would also be conducted in collaboration with key implementation partners, whether that is the school board or parent-teacher associations or nonprofit organizations that are involved in active and safe school or child safety, or public health that is involved locally in active and safe routes to school. Strong projects also are led or created in collaboration with equity deserving groups, are creative or especially innovative in the design and implementation, and where youth and or children are contributing to or have led or lead aspects of the project. And also strong projects would demonstrate strong integration of multi-solving approaches. So by multi-solving, I mean maybe our impact or providing social benefits or environmental benefits above and beyond the project, regular project parameters. So Next, program timelines. I just misplaced my slide. Here we go. So just to let you know, we did an accelerated approach to determining how to get to the topic area for this program. And so we did a great consultation with some key stakeholders over the last few months. And then we have very recently launched the program on May 13th. And applications will be accepted starting in early July. So our application portal will be, keep an eye out for our application portal opening in early July. We will be closing the call for pre-applications in mid-October on October 17th. And we hope to award successful applicants by spring of 2026. And then between spring of 2026 until 2028, so there'll be a 2-year cohort, peer learning cohort for awarded applicants. And then we expect that in the construction season of 2027, the projects will be built. And then project completion, the actual building of the project and completion will happen between October and December 2027. And then a final report that looks at all of the impacts, challenges and wins would be expected by December 2028. So I am now pleased to introduce the 3 speakers who are joining us today. And I will start by handing it over to Tyler Figgett, who is the Manager of Infrastructure Services for the City of Penticton.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for introducing me. I say I'm Tyler Figgett with the City of Penticton. My preferred pronouns are he, him. Before I start my presentation, I'd just like to acknowledge that Penticton, where I live and work, is on traditional and unceded lands of the Singpicton Indian Band and the Okanagan Nation Alliance. So these are kind of this is the presentation is really just about the infrastructure results of our school travel planning process that we started. Next. So we started in February of 2023. We started with 2 schools. It took us about a year to complete them. We completed them in May of 2024. In May of 2024, we picked 2 new schools, and those plans were just completed in May of 2025. Next. So why did Penticton do active transportation planning or start to kind of go towards that in our school and our school travel plans, pardon me. We were dealing with numerous complaints in our school frontages from administration and parents and even just other stakeholders. Their previous traffic calming attempts were just not successful. Next slide. Next, yeah. So we can see here we did some pretty simple kind of just traffic calming in front of one of our rural schools on some crosswalks. Next slide. This was one of our residential area schools, a really big wide road. Next slide. And so we did a bunch of islands, traffic calming islands. And again, this really did almost nothing to the congestion or solve any of the problems that we were seeing. Next slide. So we embarked on these active transportation plans, and it takes us about 12 to 14 months to finish from beginning to end. We generally speaking will kick off and do a site visit with our consultant late in the spring. And really what we're trying to do is just identify sort of the current conditions around the catchment, what the pickup and drop off looks like, and just kind of do some data gathering. Next slide. So then we start our engagement process. So we engage with our parent advisory councils, our school administrations, get some feedback and share what our Safe Routes to School goals are. And we usually do that kind of in the fall. And we do some community surveys, hands up surveys, and then we do a walkabout. So we walk the neighborhoods with these groups and see what sort of the pain points are that are stopping essentially active transportation. Like why aren't parents comfortable getting their kids to school in ways that are not by a car? Next slide, please. So we start collecting all this data from our parents with our, our community surveys and our hands up surveys. And really what we're trying to do is just establish a baseline of how people are getting, to their children to school. Next slide. And we've done a fair different cross section of schools. We've had an urban school, a rural elementary school, sort of one that's more in residential areas. You get quite different data from each one. And again, what we're trying to do is make sure we kind of establish a baseline for how people are getting their kids to school. And then for future, we're trying to make sure that when we are doing our evaluations, like, are we improving? Are things getting better? One of the things that we really didn't set up well when we first did our first traffic calming was we didn't come back and evaluate how things were working. We just installed a bunch of concrete works and left, and it didn't really improve, like I say. So next slide. So we go ahead and we do all this data gathering, and then we develop our first draft of our report, and we share those findings with the school admin and PAC. And then we take those findings. They may not like some of the suggestions we've made, or maybe we've missed something in that first draft of the report. And we go back and we do another round of consultation and bring basically that final draft back to them in the spring. Next slide. And we start developing our maps. So this is a map that we hand out to our parents to help them with their planning. But this is essentially the end of the process. But what we're trying to do is identify the best routes. The report will also identify routes that are desired. So you might say, well, why isn't this route in there? It's because there's no sidewalk and it's just not safe, or we don't feel like it's safe for parents to suggest this route to kids to walk on or ride or roll, or however they feel like getting to school. So this is one that we would basically update annually as we start adding infrastructure to help support all the different modes of transportations that we're trying to use other than cars. Next slide. So we come up with a list of action items in our reports, usually just trying to identify location, the issue, the recommendation, try to assign a priority, who's responsible, and then just like a rough idea of what the cost is. It's just usually low, medium, and high. And really, we're just trying to get ourselves a list of things to deal with. And some of them are quite costly, and some of them are really easy to do. But it's just kind of important to kind of get that list. And their most recent one, I think we had 26 different action items for one of the schools that is being relocated. So it can be quite daunting. There can be a lot of things that we need to try and do to support the active transportation that we're trying to do. So next slide. So for us, successes for us, like in kind of these programs, kind of support from our school communities really have been, we've really tried to look at easy wins early. So things like signage, leading pedestrian intervals, kiss and goes. We converted all of our school zones to 30 kilometers an hour at all times. And we're looking at really low cost, rapid implementation traffic calming. So sort of like the tactical urbanism, concrete blocks and bolt down bollards and paint, just to do something quickly, because nothing kills these things faster than just having a report done and not doing anything. So we really want our administration teams, our parents to feel like we're listening and we're doing something. Yeah, and then like we engage early and often with our students and our PACs and our caregivers, our administration teams. We try to do something, whether hands up surveys or other kinds of surveys, just kind of like once a month, just check in, see how things are going. And then we're really trying to be open to feedback and suggestions. So we have a kind of a policy where this plan doesn't belong to the city. While we're administering it, we really want the community to own these travel plans, and take ownership of it and be theirs. So if they come with a suggestion, we really try to make sure that it gets done or it gets put in the plan, because it's not for us, or it's not for the city, it's for this community. So we're really trying to support it that way. Next slide. So here's what we engaged actually with one of the middle schools. And this was kind of outside of the program, but because we had kind of developed some really good relationships with the school district, we used the middle school to actually paint, so there were students to paint some crosswalk hatching areas that we didn't want people parking in. It would have been really expensive for us to go ahead and do all the curb extensions and everything. So we engaged with their art classes, and they came out and we provided them the paint, hot dogs, and had a big barbecue for the school. And yeah, it was a really fun day. And it was a really inexpensive way to kind of achieve the traffic calming, and then also engage the students and have them kind of have some ownership and kind of make sure their parents aren't driving over their hard work. Next slide, please. And this is probably a more expensive traffic calming upgrade we did. It cost us about $500,000 of frontage upgrades on both sides of the road to kind of deal with. This is one of our rural elementary schools, so we upgraded about 500 meters of frontage. We had no sidewalk, no curb and gutter previously, so we put it in, and it was part of one of the more sort of intensive upgrades that we've done, and new lighting and better crosswalks and the like. Next slide. Again, this is kind of going back to that painting one. This is kind of the full picture. So we used some concrete blocks, some bolt-down bollards. All in all, this cost us about, I think, with the concrete curb, bump outs, and raised crosswalks, about $40,000 to $45,000. Hot dogs, the kids ate a ton of them. It was kind of amazing. But yeah, next slide. So yeah, now the city is kicking off with our last two elementary schools. Council has supported $150,000 annually into the program for the next 10 years. So we're going to continue to try and make improvements at each of these schools. We had a really exciting walking school bus program come to Penticton. So like a before and after school care daycare provider applied to have a walking school bus, which is like a supervised walk from a 5-minute location. So we're supporting that with the active transportation infrastructure, but it's kind of a really exciting new thing for us. And then just coordination with our capital projects, because it's now kind of front in mind with our engineering departments, these safe travel plans. When they start looking at capital improvements, they just start thinking about, okay, well, are there pain points that we can deal with when we build other infrastructure like sidewalks? And if we're doing a water main, can we coordinate and do something a little bit better to make sure that what we're putting back works in a way that can help encourage active transportation. So, and that's it for Penticton's experience so far. So we're really excited about this. It's been going pretty well for us.
Thank you so much. That was a really great presentation. I have a couple of quick questions before we move on. What is the population of Penticton?
We're sitting probably around 37,000 now.
Okay, great. I really love the image of the students. My favorite is the one of the students doing the painting on the street. I've been involved in projects where students or children have been able to do that, and the level of like pride and ownership and how they take care of it after is really remarkable.
It was a really, really fun day. And like I said, they ate a lot of hot dogs and we just had a blast. It was such a good, like, it was really invigorating day. Like it was, I just can't say enough. Like if you can ever try to get that to happen, I recommend you do, because it was so fun. So.
Oh, I love that. Tyler, we have one really specific question that I would like to get to, but we might have to save it to the end, but it was about the hands up survey. So if you can just park that for a moment. And if you do get a chance to type in case we do run out of time, but I think that would be really valuable for folks to know a little bit more about what you mean by the hands up survey. But Isabel is going to take the hook to me if I don't move on. So next we have Keith Muffley from the city of Edmonton. So Keith, I will hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Good afternoon. My name is Keith Muffley. I'm one of the senior safe mobility engineers with the City of Edmonton Safe Mobility section. My preferred pronouns are he, him, and today I'm presenting from Edmonton. located in Alberta's Treaty 6 territory in the Métis homelands. So yeah, today I'll just give you guys an overview of our city's Vision Zero goals, and one of our main programs is our Safe Routes to School. So recognizing the unique needs of children, school zones are designated as critical priority areas. In response, the city has developed a Safe Routes to School program, and each year we take funds from our Traffic Safety Automated Enforcement Reserve and try and make active routes to school safer, which is one of the key strategies in our safe mobility strategy. So next slide. So this is just a quick overview of Vision Zero. So it was established in Sweden in 97. It's been gaining momentum through North America, Europe, Australia, and other countries as well. It is internationally endorsed, and it's the goal of zero traffic-related fatalities or serious injuries, based on the philosophy that no one should be killed or injured using our transportation system. 2015, the City of Edmonton became the first city in Canada to adopt the Vision Zero. And this initiative is driven by our safe mobility strategy, which is led by our safe mobility section. So central to this is the city's proactive approach to road safety, which emphasizes preventing accidents before they occur, rather than responding reactively after they've happened. We do this by using predictive data analysis, often supplemented by community engagement. We identify and address potential risks, ensuring the interventions are implemented where they can have the greatest impact. Next slide. So since the implementation of our safe mobility strategy, there's been numerous notable achievements and programs developed, which includes our community activation program, our street labs, our speed limit reduction program, our safe crossings, proactive safety reviews, as well as school safety, which includes our Safe Routes to School program now. And on the slide, there's a few just quick examples. Starting from the bottom left, there's our dynamic feedback sign trailers, which we deploy throughout the city at kind of target locations. There's another two-stage crossing, rapid flashing beacon, some of our community lawn signs, and then as well as a vibrant crosswalk with some adaptive curb extensions around it. Next slide. So school safety began right around 2015 when we adopted Vision Zero. And this was primarily focused on the routes immediately around the school. So we installed one rapid flashing beacon for each elementary school at kind of the highest use crosswalks. We upgraded all yield signs to stop signs to help improve driver compliance to stopping and yielding. We also added reflective sleeves to all of our stop signs and crosswalk poles for increased visibility. And all marked crosswalks were upgraded from our twin parallel lines to zebra just to improve driver yielding behavior. And initially, we did have 30 km/h zones added just from 8 to 4:30 in school on school days. But then in 2017, we expanded this so it's 7:30 to 9 all days of the week. And we actually did expand this as well to standalone playground areas where they had equipment. And following this, in 2023, which was the start of our latest budget cycle, we introduced the Safe Routes to School program. Next slide. So this program was introduced in 2023, and it was a focus to further improve safety along the routes to school beyond the immediate surrounding areas. This goal was to help promote active modes and reduce the reliance on driving students to school. So each year, the city, in collaboration with the school board, select 5 to 10 schools. The city, we try and prioritize these based on our historic crash data, inquiries received, as well as looking at the data of the number of students in each school, and if there's the number of students within walking distance. And then we do collaborate with the school boards, students, parents, teacher groups, just to identify any other potential schools that may need further improvements. Typical improvements do consist of adaptable measures, select intersections, primarily curb extensions, although sometimes we do convert the road use as well. And we always install our measures throughout July, August in the break of school, just so that when students' parents come back fresh in September, it hopefully can start some strong habits. To date, so since 2011, we've done 11 schools with another 9 planned for installation this summer. Next slide. So here's a couple of quick examples of curb extensions that we installed. So again, the goal is just to shorten that crossing distance. And a lot of these, we try and select crosswalks kind of along those strong desire lines to school and shared use paths. We do just use the surfboards on the road, and depending on the type of curb extension, we sometimes pair them with cycle track curb if we need to extend the length of it. And then through our program, we always install these adaptively, but then the goal is to always convert it to permanent when other programs through other funding sources and city groups, so they can come in, know which locations should be prioritized and convert that to permanent. Next slide. So here's an example of an adaptable two-stage crossing. On the left, you can see the pedestrian. So this is along a major shared use path that connects along to a school. And on the right is kind of the driver perspective. So we try and use these to help clarify the right of way. So it also helps pedestrians by giving them that central refuge area if they need to cross traffic it kind of one way at a time. For cyclists, again, it helps just we have mini yields to try and show the right of way and how they're supposed to yield and proceed. And then again, we do install these kind of both adaptable and permanent. Adaptable obviously just costs a lot less and we can do it quicker, but when funding allows, we do also install these permanently. It kind of costs around 30 grand for the slab on concrete. So next slide. So this is a short little video of Safe Routes to School we did for Brander Gardens Elementary and Temple Private School. So we actually converted based on the congestion, converted the roadway around here to one way. And we also added curb extensions along some of the parking areas and major shared use path crossings. This required a bunch of adaptable measures, some signage, updated our bylaw, and then we worked with our transit services to reroute some of the bus routes and install some new bus pads just to ensure we're providing that same connectivity. So this is the north end of the site. So you can see we used a number of curb extensions on the one side just to clearly show the end of our two-way traffic to the one-way. Next slide. So this is just a quick map of our cities. We maintain this just so it's quick and easy for all of our staff to just see what measures are installed where. And it's a link to our plans just so we can do, because it is adaptable and they've been in place, some of these for a number of years, just to ensure they're still in good condition and haven't become a hazard. We also work closely, Edmonton being a winter city, it's quite important to work with our snow and ice control team so they know where these measures are and hopefully clear them accordingly. This map is all of our different programs, so it ensures while we have specific Safe Routes to School program, our other Safe Routes, or pardon me, Street Labs and other programs, they may, if they're in a neighborhood, they will also improve safety around schools and try and just use the funding as best possible. So to date, we have over 700 adaptable measures installed since 2022, and it's continuing to grow each year. Yeah, next slide. That is all I have. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Keith. That is so inspiring of what's possible when these types of projects can grow and grow. It's such incredible work that you're doing. I wonder if really quickly you could touch on, what the average cost of each of these projects are for the city of Edmonton.
Yeah, so we typically allocate about 20 grand per school. We have some of the funding's flexible through some of our other programs, but annually we spend about 100,000 on school Safe Routes to School. Depending on, again, we have some of our safe crossings and street labs. So if we're installing rapid flashing beacons, we kind of leverage funding from some of those other programs, but give or take $20,000 per school per year. So
fantastic. So thank you so much for that. And I don't know if I said this at the beginning, but Keith is the Senior Safe Mobility Engineer of the City of Edmonton, which is, that title in and of itself is just so wonderful to hear that some municipalities have a position that is named that. So thank you so much. I'm going to move to Stephanie Johnston-Lorette, who is the Youth and Community Active Transportation Coordinator for the Ecology Action Center. Stephanie, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks so much, Amy. And thank you all for having me here today to share some stories about active school travel infrastructure success stories in Nova Scotia. Before we dive in, I'd like to acknowledge that the land that I'm speaking from is Mi'kma'ki, the traditional and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, also known as Nova Scotia. These lands are covered by the Peace and Friendship Treaty signed in 1726, and I work and play in Unama'ki, the land of fog, or Cape Breton, which today is luckily not so foggy, and we're enjoying a beautiful spring day, as I hope you all are too. Next slide, please. So for those of you that aren't familiar with our organization, the Ecology Action Center is an ENGO that has been grounded in change work for nearly 55 years. We're connected to community. We take a holistic approach to our environment, our economy, and the creation of a just and sustainable society. We have 7 areas of focus to help work towards this vision, and one of these is transportation. So our transportation team works on a number of different programs, projects, and policy-based advocacy work, and the work is mostly focused around Mi'kma'ki. Next slide, please. So in order to encourage active travel in our communities around Nova Scotia, obviously we need to ensure that there are safe routes to support it. And the active school travel movement has really provided years of support and insight into how our communities can be designed to best support AT for all ages and abilities. But we know this has a price tag to it. So with funding opportunities and supports like the GMF Safe Routes to School Accelerate offer, implementing these projects can really become a reality. And today we just wanted to share with you 2 stories on improving safe routes infrastructure to encourage active school travel. Next slide, please. So the first example, and one that I'm very, very fond of, and I'll probably focus a little bit more on it today, is a youth-led active school travel initiative that occurred in the town of Glace Bay. It's a town with a high poverty rate, but a very strong sense of community. Glace Bay is part of Cape Breton Regional Municipality in eastern Nova Scotia. It's the second largest municipality within the province. So they have a high school that worked collaboratively with the municipality and with community partners to plan, design, and implement a safe route to improve the well-being of students and community members. And what started as just a simple youth mobility audit with a group of really keen and concerned youth led to an actual 2-year infrastructure project that immensely improved the safety around a school neighborhood. Next slide, please. The school had an unofficial desire path that was linking the school property to nearby amenities and neighborhoods. And unfortunately, this was the route that was actually frequented by, I would say, hundreds of youth daily, but it was unsafe on a number of different levels. But because the paths that were being taken were not all on school property, the safety issue was not considered an immediate issue of concern by the Regional Center for Education or school board. But rather than see this as a barrier, the youth approached it as an opportunity for partnership. The initial youth mobility audit report that we put together offered a set of recommendations that fell into 3 main categories: AT infrastructure and supports, placemaking, and accessibility. Next slide, please. So presentations were made by youth to a number of key stakeholders in the community, and these included school board operations staff, municipal staff, regional police members, government representatives from both federal and provincial levels, and numerous local organizations as well. The proposed idea, again, was a safe route, which included the design and development of an accessible multi-use pathway and a fully accessible pedestrian bridge that linked to a school route that connected up directly to the school grounds. As well, the youth were working collaboratively with the Regional Center for Education or school board to acquire an easement agreement. So that was obviously not things that youth take on by themselves, but to work with operations staff, it was really helpful to have them partner in with us on these kind of things to be able to help move the project forward with all of the legal issues that we might have to go through about property ownership. The youth also held a restorative community meeting with business owners in the area and others. And this was all being done whilst applying for and securing funding to move the project forward. Next slide, please. So with a number of successful funding applications and strong partnerships with youth and adult support, the project moved forward with a detailed design plan. The construction of the trail, the multi-use the pathway began in spring of 2021 and was completed in winter of 2022. And the outcome was exactly what the youth had planned for and proposed. It was a safe, accessible, welcoming, well-lit pathway and pedestrian bridge, and it was there for anybody of all ages and abilities to be able to utilize that space. Next slide, please. Just some other aspects to tap into that were part of this project. The youth focused on some built environment ideas and supports that would increase the daily use of the pathway and recreate the public space as well for the community and youth in particular to have a real sense of pride in. And something that would be a positive legacy for future students at the school. The students helped develop signage with positive mental health messages. They ordered waste receptacles. They had benches ordered and bike racks. And they also worked with other groups at the school, like the school garden club, to create green spaces along the pathway as well. Next slide, please. Just a couple of other youth-led features that were part of this. It's less about the infrastructure, but more about the kind of the thoughtfulness that was put into some of the pieces that supported the project. One of the aspects that the youth were really keen on including was thoughtful memorials that they created for fellow students that had sadly passed away recently. And on the other end of things, they also they created some zines to highlight the successes in the process of the youth-led project that were distributed to stakeholders, but also to other youth so that people could have sort of hear the story and get inspired by it as well. Next slide, please. For all their hard work, the youth involved were the recipients of 4 different awards of achievement. And really having community partnerships was what led this project forward. It actually happened during the middle of COVID. So to be able to keep momentum going was really a key part of it. And the community partnerships really kept it going. Having the municipality there to support the active school travel initiatives, it's not just an excellent means, obviously, to reduce car pollution around school neighborhoods, but it also helps build up that sense of community whilst enhancing the safety and well-being of students. Next slide, please. So I'll just quickly dive into one other example. So in a more urban community, I can share the story of John Martin Junior High. That's a middle school located in Dartmouth North, part of Halifax Regional Municipality. That would be the largest municipality in Nova Scotia. Their initiative was an example where, unlike the Glace Bay example, it was actually the municipality that reached out to the school rather than vice versa to gather information on how to ensure that their AT planning that they were doing for the Dartmouth North area would support active school travel for local schools. So we held our youth mobility audit, and the recommendations that came forward from the John Martin Junior High youth aligned with and added to some of the public consultation work that Halifax Regional Municipality had been putting together for their integrated mobility plan. So some of the key aspects that came out of that were connected to active school travel improvements were sidewalk maintenance upgrades, as well as some placemaking options to really give people a better sense of safety in the spaces that they were in as well. This really shows, I think, the importance and the benefit of having a school travel plan or a mobility audit report, or even your municipal or community-based active transportation plan that documents what these key goals need to be, and when you're trying to prioritize active school travel initiatives. It highlights the benefit of conversations between municipalities and schools, which I know sometimes feels like there's a gap there. So it's nice to be able to capture what some of the needs might be and keep those conversations going. And also look at some of the things that can be celebrated by enhancing the built environment and while still encouraging AT for children and youth. Next slide, please. So since receiving input from the students and other community members, Halifax Regional Municipality has completed a number of sidewalk upgrades on the map that you can see there. They're in red. That's Brule Street and Pinecrest Street, so two streets that are key routes for local students in the neighborhood. As well, there was a partnership that happened with the neighborhood in connection with the municipality where they piloted some slow streets. And the results were very positive for community members of all ages and abilities. So applying those sorts of traffic calming measures along with the improved infrastructure, it was really a great way to encourage some safe walking and cycling in the community, both to and from school, but also for folks generally in the community that are using active transportation. Next slide, please. So what we see really, I think, is a constant in both of those two examples, and really everybody who's presented here today is the importance of community partnership and keeping the momentum going for these kind of things too. My three takeaways, I think, would be the sort of importance of engaging all levels of community from the initial planning stages onward. And the connecting and partnering up on opportunities to leverage further funding so that schools don't have to go it alone or municipalities don't have to go it alone, that there's ways to partner to move these things forward. And just highlighting again the importance of meaningful contribution from various groups to build up those community assets that we really want to see to support safe and active school travel. Next slide, please. That's it for me. Thanks very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Full disclosure, I was actually at the launch of the Glace Bay infrastructure, and it was such there was so much pride and so much excitement from everyone in the community and the school. But the thing that really struck me, and I think I'm continually learning from, is that it was high school students. And the other project you talked about is junior high students. And I will admit I always default to this must be for elementary school students, active and safe routes to school. And I really love how the work that you've been doing really does demonstrate that this is beneficial also to children who are a bit bigger and older. So thank you so much for pointing that out to me once again. So I wanted to say thank you so much to all of our speakers and all of the different aspects that you've highlighted that are possible within this offer and within just the kind of lexicon of work on active and safe routes to school. Everyone is doing such incredible stuff and in the face of a lot of significant challenges in this work. So I know that we have a lot of questions that have been coming in. I've been trying to keep track. And we do have a bit of time for Q&A. And so as promised, I think what I will do is start with that question that we first had for you, Tyler, about hands up survey, if you don't mind describing that, because I know that is probably going to be an important component to the evaluation component of the projects that are done through this offer. So I'll kick that off with you.
Yeah, thank you. We go to the schools and we ask basically the teachers to ask the kids how they're getting to and from school. A couple of reasons. One is they're brutally honest. So sometimes you don't exactly, parents can be like, oh yeah, we do this all the time, and it's like maybe not. But also just because they're kind of a captive audience and we get better, more data basically is really what we're trying to get at. And then they also just feel like they're telling us what they want to. We ask them, how do you want to get to school, right? And we say, okay, well, the kids really want to ride their bikes and be on their scooters, and they want to be outside. They don't want to be in a car, right? They want to be with their friends. So, it's just trying to get all that information, just really to help support the program is really what we're trying to do. So.
And Stephanie and Keith as well, if you have any comments, again, like I said, it is going to be important in terms of the evaluation of this program, is to kind of figure out what the baseline is as projects get started, and then how we measure for progress or success towards the end, or changes towards the end. And that is something that the folks in the cohort are going to get support from as part of the peer learning cohort. But I am curious what both of you might have to say about how you measure progress or change in the projects you've been working on as well.
I can just speak really quickly to with the Glace Bay project. It was, again, this was an initiative that the youth took on, but they had before and after data that they collected, and what they did, it was actually in less of a traditional sort of checklist or kind of format. It was actually through the Cahoots program that they used, or Kahoot, that put out a quick question over the just through the speaker at the school, and then everybody puts their little answer in digitally, and then you'll have all of a sudden 800 answers on what how people are feeling about the project and so on. And they gathered some really quick but also significant numbers of how much data they wanted that was in relation to how people were feeling about safety in relation to the trail before anything happened to it, and then how they felt about it afterwards. That was one quick way that we gathered some data from the youth themselves.
Great, thanks. And just a reminder, if anyone else has any questions, I know people have been posting things in the Q&A, and a few of us have been trying to answer them. But if you have other questions, please do put them in the chat. I should also note that Isabel, if she hasn't already, our fearless webinar producer is going to put links in the chat to the resources that the town of Penticton does, and also to the Accelerate offer that we've presented today. So I will just quickly answer a couple of questions in the chat, because I may have pressed the wrong button in trying to answer them, but one of them was about charities and nonprofits, if they can apply as a lead applicant. And the answer is actually no, it is municipalities, municipal transit authorities, and eligible Indigenous communities are the eligible applicants, and that is what it is limited to. But we very much strongly encourage that NGOs that are involved in the space to definitely be, be involved in the project. It definitely significantly strengthens a project. And so I think what I will do is I have if there's not any other kind of general overarching questions, I do have a few. And people can put hands up. Oh, are there hands up? Oh, I'm not seeing hands, but if you have your hand up, if you can unmute yourself and ask the question, go for it.
Hi there.
Hi, Susan. Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't see where you were, but go ahead.
The technology, yes, thanks. Hi, Amy. I am just wondering, certainly, we have been in conversation with Emma Martin, HRM, Dave McIsaac. I don't know if they're on the call, but in our neck of the woods, we are looking to connect the Trans-Canada Trail from exit 20 to 21, which is a problem because the 107 highway was built over top of the rail bed. However, this is a really important route for students to get to the new Eastern Shore Consolidated High School on Mott's Road. I know you know the neighborhood. And so I'm just wondering if you can share any progress, or if Emma or David are on the call, if they can share any progress on that section as well. There's the section in Musquodoboit Harbor, but we'll put that on hold for now because a portion of the rail bed was sold and is privately owned, Brian Dickey Drive. So that's my question. Is there any progress on the Trans-Canada Trail connection between Porters Lake, exit 20, and East Chesapeake, exit 21?
Susan, I actually can't see who is on this call, but I think what I'll ask you to do is just to direct that question directly to them. And if they want to share something in the chat, that would be great if they could answer it there. And if you'd like to kind of send a query directly, we'll share the information about our outreach team on the last slide here. So if you want to kind of send a potential project idea to our outreach team, then they could answer it there for sure.
Fair enough. Thank you, because it needs to be a partnership between the municipality, which seems to be driving this fund application, and the province, who is the landowner. So thank you.
Great, thanks. And I think there is another hand up. Is it Sukjot? Do you have your hand up and want to ask a question? Go for it. If you can figure out how to unmute yourself, you've got the floor. we can't hear you, so you may need to type this question. Okay, well you type. I have some other general questions, and we've got a couple more minutes, so I'm going to try to get one or two in. I am really curious, and some of you may have spoken to this, and maybe you'll end up repeating yourself a little bit. But what were the trickiest parts of getting your projects to the finish line? Like, if you can summarize maybe one or two things that were the most challenging that you would expect other municipalities or projects would also likely run into in their development process. And maybe if I can start with you, Keith, or whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's quite a bit of buy-in in the city for improving safety to schools. I think getting a consensus with some of the school boards, the teacher parents, and just having what everyone's idea for what a safer routes to school look like to kind of align is always interesting, and where those like hot spots. But similar to what Tyler mentioned, I think meeting with the students on site, the parent groups or whatever, it's really helpful to just have that in-person conversation and just see like at a pickup drop off and just kind of visualize it and kind of bring those ideas and see what they're gonna look like. I mean, the other part that we struggle with being a winter city is our snow and ice team doesn't always love our adaptable measures on the roadway. So it's always interesting trying to get buy-in from them. But I think just trying that close relationship and adjusting our designs, we have been doing this for a few years. Just adjusting our designs each year so that there's less maintenance concerns and not kind of creating other concerns is important.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I think some
Tyler,
of
do you
the
have something
challenges,
to add there?
yeah, some of the challenges we face too is just managing parents' expectations because
Mhm.
some of these are pretty expensive, like some of the stuff that we need to do. And so trying to tell, trying to convey it to them that we understand that what you want is really important to you, but we do have a budget to balance across the whole city, and there's lots of needs. So that can be really sort of frustrating to tell parents all the time, basically, well, we can't do this now because we don't have any money, but we're doing our best, and they just, so that can be really challenging. Those conversations can be challenging, but then, the easy wins are always, it just helps. But yeah, it's interesting having the conversations with parents for sure about what they think is important and how they think everything should be at the top of the list and stuff. So
That's a great point.
I
And
think too.
Stephanie, if you don't mind too briefly, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the things that's just coming to mind right now is how important it is to keep, I mean, for me, obviously, I'm thinking about older youth and youth engagement in the process, but for me, in these experiences, the ones that I've just shared with you today, it's really been something that's been joyful for me to see is how common sense and grounded youth are in these kind of conversations that sometimes it's the adults in the room that get very, starting to butt heads over issues a lot of the time, but sometimes it's the youth that can be the voice of reason in a room, and or children in the room as well. So it's really nice, I think, to keep folks always engaged in conversation throughout the whole process. And on the other end of things, I guess on the funding side, one issue that's been obviously a little bit of complication through these sorts of projects is just the timeline of federal funding doesn't always match up with the timeline of provincial funding. So having this 2-year period actually is really nice to be able to have that stretch of period of time I think to be able to work out over the project over this timeline to give a little bit of flexibility and having people be able to get the planning done and roll it out as well and have time to be able to find some matching funds too. So, but
Amazing.
yeah,
Thanks so much for those varied answers at different ends of the spectrum. It's so great. I love that all the different aspects you three bring to it all together. It's awesome.